The story of the Fox sisters begins in the quiet village of Hydesville, New York, in the late 1840s, a time when America was deeply religious, emotionally charged, and fascinated by the unseen world. The country was in the midst of a social upheaval, religious revivals, and rapid change, and many people were searching for reassurance that the soul lived on after death. Into this atmosphere stepped three sisters whose names would become forever linked to the birth of modern spiritualism. Their names were Leah Fox, Margaret Fox, and Catherine Fox, better known as the Fox sisters. The sisters did not set out to change American belief systems, but their actions would spark a movement that swept across the United States and beyond, influencing religion, science, and popular culture for decades. In 1848, Maggie and Kate were living with their parents in a modest farmhouse in Hydesville when strange sounds began to disturb the household. At night, knocking noises echoed through the rooms, unexplained and persistent. The girls claimed the sounds were not random but intelligent, responding to questions with specific numbers of raps. According to their story, a spirit was trying to communicate. They said the spirit identified himself as a peddler who had been murdered in the house and buried in the cellar. Neighbors soon heard about the phenomenon, and curiosity turned into obsession. Crowds gathered to witness the mysterious rappings, and what began as a family oddity quickly grew into a public sensation. Word spread rapidly through nearby Rochester, a city already known for reform movements and experimental religious ideas. Rochester was fertile ground for something like spiritualism to take root, and the Fox sisters soon found themselves at the center of intense attention. Maggie and Kate were still teenagers, but their alleged ability to communicate with the dead made them objects of fascination. People believed there were mediums, chosen conduits between the living and the spirit world. The sisters were invited to demonstrate their abilities in public settings, where audiences watched in awe as invisible forces seemed to answer questions through coded knocks. Their older sister, Leah, who lived in Rochester, quickly recognized the potential of what was happening. Leah was more worldly, more organized, and far more ambitious than her younger sisters. She took control of their careers, arranging public demonstrations and managing their growing fame. Under her guidance, the sisters began holding seances, formal gatherings where participants believed they could speak with deceased loved ones. These seances became widely popular. People grieving lost family members found comfort in the idea that death was not the end. The Fox sisters did not invent the concept of spirits communicating with the living, but they made it feel real, immediate, and accessible. Soon, spiritualism became a full-fledged movement, with mediums appearing across the country, many of them inspired directly by the Fox sisters. Newspapers reported on spirit communications, scientists investigated the phenomenon, and churches debated whether it was divine or dangerous. The sisters toured major cities, performing before packed halls and prominent figures. What made their stories so compelling was not just the phenomenon itself, but the personalities involved. Maggie was sensitive and introspective, often struggling with guilt and inner conflict. Kate was younger, more playful, and more comfortable in the spotlight. Leah remained the controlling force, shaping the narrative and ensuring their continued success. Despite their fame, life as a medium was not easy. The sisters were under constant scrutiny. Skeptics accused them of fraud, while believers defended them fiercely. Investigations were conducted to uncover the source of the mysterious rappings, but no explanation ever seemed to fully convince the public one way or the other. Over time, the performances became more elaborate, and the pressure to produce results increased. The sisters were expected to communicate with specific spirits, deliver meaningful messages, and perform on demand. This pressure took a toll, particularly on Maggie, who turned increasingly to alcohol as a way to cope. As the years passed, cracks began to form in the story. Maggie struggled deeply with the role she had been thrust into. She questioned whether she had done more harm than good by encouraging belief in spiritual communication. In 1888, decades after the events in Hydesville, Maggie made a shocking public confession. She declared that the spirit rappings had been a trick, produced by cracking her toe joints against the floor. She demonstrated how the sounds were made and insisted that the entire phenomenon had been a deception from the beginning. The confession sent shockwaves through the spiritualist community. Believers were devastated. Skeptics felt vindicated, and the legacy of the Fox sisters was thrown into chaos. However, the story did not end there. Not long after her confession, Maggie recanted, claiming she had been pressured into admitting fraud and that her earlier statements were made while she was vulnerable and desperate. This reversal only deepened the mystery surrounding the sisters. Were they frauds who later regretted their deception? Or were they genuine believers who became trapped by fame, expectation, and doubt? Kate, who continued to work as a medium for many years, never made a full confession like Maggie did. She remained committed to spiritualism for most of her life, though she too struggled with addiction and financial hardship. Leah distanced herself from the controversy and lived a relatively quieter life, though many critics blamed her for exploiting her younger sisters and pushing them into the spotlight. By the time all three sisters had died, spiritualism had already evolved beyond them. The movement they helped ignite continued into the 20th century, influencing everything from seances and ghost lore to psychology and paranormal investigation. Even after Maggie's confession, many spiritualists argue that while the Fox sisters may have exaggerated or manipulated some events, the broader phenomenon of spirit communication was still real. In this way, the sisters became symbols rather than simple figures. They represented belief and doubt, hope and deception, faith and skepticism all at once. Their story raises questions that still resonate today. Why do people believe in the paranormal? What role does grief play in shaping belief? How easily can performance and faith blur together? The Fox sisters lived in a time when science and religion were both struggling to explain the mysteries of life and death, and they stood at the crossroads of those tensions. Whether viewed as pioneers or performers, victims or manipulators, their impact is undeniable. They transformed private belief into public spectacle and made communication with the dead feel possible in a modern world. Their influence can still be seen in contemporary ghost hunting shows, psychic mediums, and popular fascination with the afterlife. The Fox sisters did not just tell people that spirits existed. They made people feel that the barrier between worlds was thin, fragile, and ready to be crossed. Even now, more than a century later, their story continues to provoke debate. Some see them as clever girls playing a prank that spiraled out of control. Others see them as products of a culture desperate for comfort and meaning. And some believe that whatever tricks may have been involved, something genuine happened in that Hydesville farmhouse that cannot fully be explained. In the end, the Fox sisters remain one of the most important figures in paranormal history, not because they proved the existence of spirits, but because they revealed how deeply humans want to believe that death is not the end. Their lives were marked by fame, controversy, suffering, and contradiction, and their legacy is just as complicated. They opened a door that could never quite be closed again, and whether that door led to truth, illusion, or something in between is still a question that lingers. Like, comment, and subscribe for daily history and culture content.